watched as she was slammed into the ground. She gasped for air, but Jonah bored his hoof into her chest. Avery's hand reached for his collar and threw him down before he could get a proper hold on her. Her sword was stuck in the ground next to her. She had lost it seconds before, so she reached for it and pressed it against Jonah's throat. The man had struggled before, shaken and clawing at her to imbalance her, but as soon as he felt the cold blade on his skin, he practically deflated and admitted defeat. She stood up and reached out her hand, which the hybrid gladly took. "How can she still stand up straight after that?" Josephine asked next to him. She held a basket, her hair was tied up into a knot, and she wore a yellow summer dress which nicely complemented her chocolate skin. Dew smirked bitterly. "She's been through worse." "Oh my, do you think Patrick will be treated like that as well?" she was worrying. Her paranoia had not left her even after several months of her husband being part of a different work field. It had gotten worse, if anything. Sean blamed it on pregnancy. Frederick said it was a logical response due to the high potential of a civil war breaking out in the kingdom as well. Still, the last time there was a bigger fight going on which involved the royal knights had been the year before, and if they were lucky, several months would pass before there would be any need for violent involvement. Jonah and Avery stood opposite each other again, swords drawn, watching their opponent's every move. The last 3 fights you had witnessed this day on his and Josephine's way of returning to the castle with newly bought foods from the market were close to a tie almost every time. Their strength wasn't all that comparable. The same could be said about their reflexes and durability. He had the strength, she had the dirty tricks up her sleeves and a higher body control. For Dew it was easy to see her getting more and more tired out by every hit she threw and every hit she took. There was no way she could last an hour against the bundle of suppressed energy. Jonah's voice echoed over the training area. "Come on, don't hold back this time. It's no fun if you're tired and you handicap yourself." She didn't waste another second and jumped. No, she swung herself into the air using one swing of her wings and had her claymore come crashing down on the man underneath her. He barely managed to stay on his legs and had to take several steps back. He whistled in respect before having to get back on defending his life. Dew threw a glance at his colleague and chuckled quietly at the sight of her wide eyes. "She can't fly with those things?" she exclaimed. "Did you think they were for decoration?" "Yes, she can fly a little." Still, Avery ended up losing because her legs gave up underneath her moments after Jonah knocked the weapon out of her weakening hand. She didn't immediately sit up. As Jonah was bending down to her, Dew assumed he would ask for her well-being. Instead, he grabbed her by the collar and forced her to stand up. Her voice was too quiet for Dew to hear from his distance, but he assumed it to be her telling him she would have to rest now, because she started walking towards the path Dew and Josephine were standing on, using the sword as a crutch. "So quick already? You used to last longer," Jonah complained while following her closely. "Well, things changed, and if I continue I'll black out again. Just find someone else to entertain you," Avery huffed. His arm shot towards her head and held her by the horn. Instinctively she slapped his hand off of herself. He kept on trying to get a hold of her again while pleading, "Come on, shithead, just one more time, it's all I ask for." She seized his hand. Quickly he struggled it free again, grinned provocatively, and once again touched her horns. This time she didn't hold back, and the man went down in pain as Avery broke the fingers of his right hand. "I told you they're sensitive, dickhead," she shouted at him before letting go and continuing. Josephine's mouth stood slightly open. Dew patted her on the shoulder to signalize her they should get going as well. The past 2 months or so, Jonah had adapted well into his new circumstances. Avery described him as being reliable and punctual, as well as sociable enough to get along with the majority of people. His status as a hybrid had made him even more popular. It wasn't unexpected when he boasted about the amount of marriage proposals he had gotten by women and opportunistic fathers all around the area to do, and how he had rejected all of them. It was obvious he wasn't planning on permanently settling down in a place like this. It was supposed to be his temporary entertainment before he would leave to find adventure and challenge somewhere else. Over the time Dew spent with him, he had gotten the impression that Jonah saw him as a friend while Dew himself didn't. He disliked how he tried to get under almost everyone's skin once a conversation got too friendly for his taste, and his loud voice got Duke's head to a point he felt a slight headache and had to shake him off somehow. At least Jonah had stopped asking for money after the first month, which neither Avery or Duke had ever given him. Both of them agreed on the matter of alcohol consumption. Avoid if possible. They hadn't gotten wasted even once. Duke had an unnatural resistance against the substance, and Avery didn't consume any kind of liquid at all, but they had seen the side effects it could have on people. Duke could have sworn Frederick would have been kicked out years ago if it wasn't for Sean repeatedly encouraging him to double down on cheap booze. Of course, Jonah wasn't an alcoholic, but his idea of enjoying his nights consisted of losing control in a crowd of people also losing themselves, an idea Duke couldn't in any way relate to. His own perfect night would consist of sitting at or in a lake to gaze at the countless stars above and perhaps enjoy a snack and a cuddle. Another option would be a rainstorm outside while huddling up in a warm set of blankets and listening to the quiet drums of raindrops hitting the window. They quickly joined Avery. Jonah was still on the same spot as before and wrapped sticks to his fingers. Duke wondered if it wasn't the first time a scenario like this had happened between them. Now that he's new, why can't Patrick just go back to the city? Josephine immediately bursted out as she ended up next to the knight. He's a long-time investment, while Jonah isn't, Avery explained directly. Do you think I can convince the officials to switch my husband out with someone else? You know, because else our child, I don't want it to be without a father, Josephine cried out again, like she had done often recently. Avery had her eyes on the ground while her back was bent under the weight of her wings. Looking back, Duke saw the traces of Avery's dragging step had left in the dirt. The hybrid groaned. The officials don't give a damn about your family. You could request him to switch units inside the Royal Army if someone else volunteers to give up his place. The general in control of the unit could conveniently give a soldier time off, but they won't as long as he's not a hindrance to us. How very cruel of them, Josephine exclaimed. Missy, dying for the rich is our job. Sorry to break that to you. Her fluffy hair bobbed around as she let her head sink in offense. A second after she looked up again, as if she didn't notice Avery just wanted to sleep, and complained, Do you not have empathy for families? Imagine if your child would have to grow up with one parent only. I don't have children. Josephine put her hands on her hips and exclaimed, At some point you will probably have children. It's just how it is. You're just too young to comprehend that yet. Duke could see Avery's body stiffen, but her face was hidden behind a curtain of black and grey hair. I just told you I will not have children, and I know what I'm talking about when I say so, she replied with a hardened tone. But they can make someone really happy, believe me. Just give it some more. Josephine was interrupted by a sore shout. Can you not shut up? Can you not keep pestering everyone with your oh-so-dear husband and your non-existent child? Some people have their own problems, and some people aren't as privileged as you are. She was taken aback. Avery was towering above her, finger pointed at her and gritted teeth, while her eyes beamed down at her with nothing but pain. I'm sorry, I just thought this might be a way for you to experience more joy, she stammered on the verge of tears. Well, guess what? Avery laughed with a breaking voice. The world decided for me not to be able to do so, even if I wanted to. I'm nothing more than an object of pleasure, so take your dreams and give them to someone who can share them. Share them with the ghost that stares at me instead of a bitch who feasts on the pity of others. He didn't take his eyes off of her. From time to time trembles ran across her whole body, up into the tip of her wings. At least her sobs had died down. Her pillow was laying right behind Duke's back. He had given her his own after hers had gotten too stained. Her reddened eyes were fixed on a ring on her finger. Duke had asked if he should take it off, but she had shaken her head. The sun was already beginning to lose height. Duke's duty would begin soon, but he had explicitly told Josephine not to call him unless it was him alone who would have to fulfill the task, and if he wasn't ready, the king should starve. Once again Duke picked up the tissue to wipe the tears from her face. She held his hand in place, and he began to stroke the side of her grey face. There were dirt stains from the training on it, as well as on her clothes and her hair. Avery looked pitiful. Her physical appearance was the same which could break someone's hand without a struggle, but now there was only the strength of a corpse. At least she was here. Dew sighed absent-mindedly, which led her to let go of his hand. "Do you really want to stay tied to me?" she then asked quietly, but with defiance in her voice. He placed his hand back on her head and ensured, "Of course I do. I do wonder if you want to, though." Another tear rolled down her cheek and into the beige cloth of the pillow. "Besides wanting to, I have to belong to someone so he doesn't have access to me." Her hands went to grab his shirt to pull him down towards her level and buried her face in it. "I don't want to be there again. I don't want to be there again. I really don't." He let her continue to cry into his shirt. Was being with him all that much better? You didn't exactly know. He generally knew very little about all of it, and he wasn't eager to learn. "Please tell her to go away." "Who?" he asked in wonder. "She's been staring at me for years now, but I can't give her what she wants. I just can't because it will destroy me." Dew looked around in the room. Nobody was there. "There is nobody." "Of course she isn't. She died and she wants me to act, but I can't." Was she going mad? Who was she talking about? "What can't you do, and why not?" he gently asked her and stroked over her horns. "I can't take off the blindfold. He'll take everything from me." "You won't have to put it on again. Ever," Dew responded, wanting to seem firm. His hands tightened. "She isn't supposed to see me in this way. She hates it, and I know it." "Can you describe the person you are seeing?" The hybrid stabled her voice again and wiped her face with the back of her hand. "You don't know her, but Sue does. She has my drawings of her." Avery let go of him and sat straight up. Her wild gaze searched through every corner of the room while her stiffened wings were shaking. "Do you see her right now?" Dew wanted to know. Maybe she was hallucinating, or maybe someone really was hunting her, and it was obvious who it would be if it was true. He didn't believe in ghosts, but what else could break the spirit of a night like this? A vengeful spirit whose last wish hadn't been fulfilled, and knew it could be Avery who carried out the deed. Avery shook her head and laid back down onto the bed. "She's gone. Who knows? Maybe I'm just mad." She grabbed the pillow, pressed her face into it, and screamed while her knuckles went white from the strain. Time passed. Slowly even her shaking went away. Dew had put the blanket over her, and soon her uneven breath had stabilized. She was sleeping while his hand ran in circles over the area between her wings on the back. Perhaps this is what she meant by being her true self, a scared creature who was afraid of weakness. A quiet and careful knocking came from the direction of the door. Trying to avoid any kind of noise, Dew rolled out of the bed and carefully turned around the key. Now the woman's fluffy hair was loose. Her eyes avoided him, and she had her hands crossed behind her back. Dew followed her in silence. A tiny voice came from before him. "Can you tell her I'm sorry? I really didn't know it was true that she was a comfort woman." "You have no idea what you are talking about, have you?" Dew snarled. Josephine flinched and tried to make herself as small as she could. "I thought, because of what you were saying." "Well, stop thinking then. It's not like thinking ever helped you. Your paranoia isn't helping your husband, who is already distressed enough about the situation. It doesn't help your child, which isn't even born yet. It will never, because thinking won't reveal the future to you, and it certainly doesn't help her that a woman who had never once deeply talked to her tries to tell her what to do with her body, which she already feels bad about." Her hair fell into her face, and together with her drawn-up shoulders, it hid her face, but not her whimpering. You wanted to let her know she had no right to be the one crying, but he held himself back. Wasn't he doing the same over and over again? The streets were bustling with people. Lights flickered from all directions, while the chattering and sounds of violins, flutes and drums mixed up into a symphony of festive chaos. The traders really had gone out of their way to provide as many exotic smells as there were rooms in the castle, and it made Dew feel sick. "I've seen this festival several times, but never on such a scale. Come on, from my experience, the good stuff sells us quicker than fresh bread. Jonah dragged him through the masses. From all sides he could hear the laughing and sometimes a complaint or two when Dew's body was uncontrollably pushed against anyone unfortunate enough to be in the boar's way. He didn't want to be here. In his second year, Frederick had dragged him to the local festival of celebrating the coronation of the first king of Bota. The kingdom made a big deal out of it. Games, dance and music, special dishes, and a lot of drinking were custom for the day, most of them copied from Rainburg, so Jonah claimed. It always started at sunset and went on till dawn for those who could keep up. The first time was supposed to be his last time as well. Dew had ended up returning home and had had a short emotional breakdown as the weight of the night had fully set in. It had been his inconvenience to meet Jonah right outside the kitchen this very day. Maybe the man had been waiting for him for whatever reason before he grabbed Dew by the shoulder, and for the moment going to the festival hadn't looked like a terrible idea. The effect had faded quickly. They came to a stop before a poorly built movable bar. Several barrels were stacked behind a broad man giving out drinks, desperate to be emptied. Jonah immediately struck up a conversation engaging the working man in a heated discussion about the best type of alcohol to consume. Dew stood next to him, right next to the counter, to have the flood of those celebrating pass right by him. Still they managed to hit their elbow into his side, which almost knocked him into the man. The conversation had shifted towards the man's daughter, and how pleased she would be to meet a Boer hybrid who cunningly responded with, "Give me a drink and I'll consider it a deal," and he actually won. Dew was prepared to continue to stroll through the streets, but Jonah slung his arm around his shoulder and tried to get him to spend his money on a drink as well, the smell of sweat from the Boer's skin burning in Dew's nose. To Dew's revelation of not having any money on him, Jonah simply bought something for him against his protest. He tried beer before. It surely had a memorable and unique taste, but not one he enjoyed as much as others did. His cup emptied anyway. Throwing it away would be both a waste and a rude gesture, and it wasn't as if it was too bad to drink. In between two closed craftsman shops, there was a minigame including a bucket and several fist-sized balls. Jonah didn't hesitate to spend more money, press one ball into Dew's hand, and with a shoulder pat told him, "Come on, prove your accuracy, kitchen boy." Of course the learned long-distance fighter triumphed over him in any game he dragged Dew to play. Dew did, however, show some level of skill which Jonah cherished. The hybrid certainly had fun. His cheeks were glowing from the alcohol, but his mood was calculated enough not to make Dew worry about a potential violent outbreak. To his amazement, Jonah didn't bother the injury on his hand. His grip was just as tight as before as he harshly took the other by the wrist for one last time and led him outside of the major chaos to the table and chairs next to a closed tavern. Light was streaming out of the windows above, and the torches, which were as tall as a one-story building, that had been erected for their festivities. Jonah went through his newly gained possessions. Several letters with addresses and sincere wishes of meeting him once again, some prizes won in the minigames such as cups with lovely engravings and coupons for free drinks from multiple places. "What a night, huh? Haven't had that much to do in ages," Jonah bellowed with a smile reaching from one sharp ear to the other. It surely was something. "Oh, come on, don't tell me you didn't at least enjoy it a little bit." He nudged Dew with the fist of his broken hand, but didn't even flinch remarkably. Dew leaned back in the chair, distancing himself from the man, but pretended it was just out of tiredness. "Yeah, it was entertainment. There are things on my mind that bother me," he admitted. Jonah leaned forward and rested his chin on his hands as he asked, "Such as?" Dew dug his hands into his hair. It was getting too long again for his taste. He didn't want to open up to him, but the other probably wouldn't let go. "I worry about my partner. She had a bit of a rough time when we were leaving, and I hope she doesn't come up with any stupid ideas while I'm gone." His opposite cocked his head and put on a pensive face. "What do you mean by stupid ideas? I don't know him as a person to act risky when emotional. I'm the type of person, not him." Dew listened up. "Did he not tell you about his suicide attempts?" Jonah's eyes immediately widened as his head slightly went up. Dew elaborated, his words flowing easier with the old use of pronouns. Just a couple of months ago he tried to drown himself in a lake after an incident putting him to shame. Before that, around 7 years ago, he threw himself off a cliff when he grew wings and horns, and I'm certain there are more. He couldn't imagine Avery keeping such a huge event from someone she shared so many stories with, and neither could Jonah. The flabbergasted man had his fingers drum on the table. How did he survive that? He wanted to know, to which Dew replied, I don't know. Well, I was only there once and pulled him out of the lake the first time. That's how we met. But everything else? He promised me he wouldn't try again as long as we are together, but I don't know if he sticks to his word. It would surprise me if so. He probably just gave you the promise in a moment of emotional vulnerability. His true affection towards you can't be much greater than his to me, and that can't keep one from taking the leap. Jonah explained his way of thoughts and left Dew speechless. He stared into Jonah's eyes, which were so earnest in that moment he wanted to believe what he had said, but his mind fought against the idea. He soon found his voice. You know we are literally married. And it's safer for a female-bodied hybrid to be married to someone who treats them decently than being single. If I were him, I would have done the same thing and married my best friend. You don't seriously think he did it for a deep emotional reason, did you? Jonah's tone was almost mocking. Dew felt the metal around his ring finger more prominently now, as if it had tightened. I know he did it for himself, at least the formal part, but do you really think he just wanted me for that? Dew tried to sound confident in what he had believed was the reality. There it was again, that pitiful gaze directed towards him which pierced him through his heart and lung. I thought you knew that. Huh. Did you never notice he treats both of us as nothing more than friends? We're just people filling in some parts of his interests as it should be. You offer him entertainment through stories, your affection and time. I offer him exercise and humorous conversation. That's it. Avery doesn't love you more than me. Sorry to be the one to break that to you, but that's just how it is. He felt gagged. Several people wandered past him, supporting each other in standing upright while drunkenly singing traditional songs. A torch burned out, and a man with a bundle on his back rushed to it with a ladder to regrow the flames. Somewhere a barrel fell off a stack, and people were laughing and crying over the loss of the divine drink. Dew's left hand was tightly wrapped around his ring finger. Jonah was still looking at him. He knew that even without lifting his head up. Hey, the man began. I'm not telling you he dislikes you. I'm not telling you not to enjoy spending time with him or anything like that. All I was trying to say was that you should not be too fixed on that relationship because it isn't what it's supposed to look like on the outside. Just keep your eyes open on better opportunities, some that can fulfill you wholly. I'm sure a guy like you can find a girl or a boy at any time if you wanted to. The chair screeched and Dew stood next to the table with his finger still in his hand. I'm sorry, but I have to go. I have work tomorrow and have to get up early. Then he vanished in the crowd. Those pitiful eyes were still on him even though they couldn't see him, and they would follow him, and he would ignore them because he wanted there to be more. He had to believe there was more.